Hello, Marketing Menches. Thank you for joining me in this wonderful episode where we're going to talk about call to actions. How do we get people to do what we want them to do? How do we get them to respond to what we are asking of them? So, today we're going to be talking about increasing your call to action click through rate. There are a lot of business owners who have wonderful websites. Actually, they have wonderful offerings, but sometimes it doesn't work as well for them as they had hoped. Why? Today we're going to be looking at those things that usually are problematic for call to actions. So today we're going to, in this three-part series, we're going to be talking about best practices and what we can do to better understand our consumer. Right? We have to do that in order for our call to actions to be the most effective. All right, so let's get started. The first thing is, with the best practice, we have to understand our market's mentality. Now, if this doesn't sound like, oh yeah, marketing mentality, I get that, then you didn't watch my first episode, which is the What's in Your Marketing Toolbox. Please, before you watch this episode, I want you to go back and I want you to look at that. And there is, in that playlist, how to define your target audience, and watch that. You're really going to understand what I'm talking about here. And then come on back. All right. Let's just say that you did watch that, and now we're going to continue. All right. So the other thing that we have to understand are our market's value points. What's important to them? Is it saving money? Is it saving time? What is it that we're trying to get them to do? What are those value points about your business that is going to sell the sizzle of your call to action? Okay. The other thing that we want to understand when we create our call to action is your market's language. What's the language? Because when we create these marketing programs, we want to be speaking to them. We want this content to be resonating with your market, your primary and your secondary audience. Again, if this does not sound like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about with primary and secondary audience, please check out the first episode. But if you also are wondering like, well, how do you sell the sizzle? And marketing language, I also want you to be looking at how to write effective content. So all of this stuff makes better sense to you. All right, so what else do we need to figure out when we're putting together our call to action? The behavior of your target audience. Are they cautionary consumers? Are they the kind of consumers that are impulsive? What kind of behaviors do they have? Do they like to just buy things on the spot? Do they like to come back and maybe you see the offer a few more times before they respond to it? That's very important to understand their behaviors, because a good call to action is going to include having good timing of when you're going to be presenting that call to action. So the other thing is understanding your market's habits. So when do they buy? Just as an example, when do they buy? Do they buy on the 1st and 15th? Are your consumers paycheck consumers? Or do they have expendable incomes and you can market to them at any time? Know what their habits are. When are they most likely to purchase something? Or what kind of things can we be presenting to them that plays right into all those best practices? Okay. So now I just thought I'd ask you guys a few questions. So the first question is, good marketing begins with knowing your consumer's market language. True or false? Well, the answer is obviously, if you've been listening, it's true. What we need to do is we have to understand the marketing language of our consumer. And what that means is the language that we're going to use in your marketing is definitely going to appeal to your consumer. Okay? It's also going to be a language that can influence your consumers. So they respond to your offering. It's also a language that your consumer is using. Okay, so let's say I sold skateboards or something. I had a skate shop. There's a certain language among skaters, isn't there? So I would be writing my content to appeal to them. Okay, so that's what I mean by the language and how you're talking to them. It's very important, and it's also important when we are putting together our keyword focus. That's going to convert or be converted into our key phrase for our page. Now, again, if you're like keywords, key phrases, what's that? Please go back to my playlist and you will see an episode that is entitled Keywords versus Key Phrases. And then come on back. Okay, all right. So, and then also, the market language is subject to change, right? So it's always good to do a poll, do a survey, use your social media or your website as long as you feel that you are dialed into your market, whether you're getting the feedback in return from your audience. Be careful because a lot of people have social medias that consist of their kid's principal or their friend or their family. We want to make sure that your social media for your business is actually people who are interested in your business, your product, your service. Then when we do these products or these surveys and these polls, you're actually tapping into that audience, right? That's the only audience that you should be concerned about, is your primary and your secondary audience. Again, if this sounds foreign to you, please go back to what's in your marketing toolbox, and this is all going to make sense to you. All right, so what else? Let's find out what the next question is. Call to actions can be used for more than selling. True or false? A lot of people feel that call to action is just for selling, and that is incorrect. It can be used for a whole bunch of different things. So you can, call to action could be, here, click on this link, or subscribe, or give me your email, or whatever it is. It doesn't always have to be about sales. So good call to action can be any kind of action you want your audience to take. Those were just a few that I mentioned that are usually the most common. But call to actions can be to sign up for something, to view a page, so you click on a link, or you respond to an offering. But they should also be relevant to the page. Now, this is a big offender that I see when I work with business owners, and I'm certain you've come across your share of websites that do this, where you land on the home page and wham, right there, it's like, hey, subscribe, or hey, go check out my pricing page, or let's have a project consultation or something. Too soon, right? I know what I do is I usually just leave the website because I don't want to be rushed. I want to take in the information, and that was just too in my face to feel comfortable. Or the other thing is having someone say, hey, Darren, if you're ready to talk, I'm in a chat. We could have a live chat, whatever. It's very uncomfortable. So you have to know the timing, certainly the marketing mentality of your audience. So, those kind of things are an absolute 100% turn off for me. I don't know what they are for you, but if I'm your market, you should be very concerned about that because you're just driving people away by what you think is important to put in front of them. You can't look at it as what you want. You have to think about your call to actions. It has to be dialed into what they want and how they want to be marketed to. So timing, we're going to get into that. Also, call to actions are great tools to lead consumers. Do you know a lot of websites, they don't lead the site visitor to the pages that they should be taking them to? Now, again, it's keeping everything relevant, right? Just like our call to actions, our links, whatever we're putting in front of them. Let's just say, for example, going back to Darren's plant-based burger stand in Sherman Oaks. I want to make sure that I'm leading them based on what they selected. So let's just say they clicked on, I don't know, my gift cards. So I'm going to keep them in that lane of gift cards. I guess if they like, my gift cards, they love my plant-based burgers, so maybe I'll even have them go to my shop where they can buy a hat or t-shirts or whatever, but I'm going to keep them, it's going to all be relevant to where they're at and what they're looking for on my website. That is very key. So don't do these call to actions or these links that are completely irrelevant or untimely. You have to be thinking about where they're at. So the homepage, like I said before, that's like the airport terminal, right? We go to this airport terminal, and now that homepage is going to take us to where we want to go from there, right? So just remember where your visitor is at that moment. They just arrived. They just got there. Now let's make sure we put in front of them the most essential parts of our website or our marketing that we want them to check out, and we lead them there. But because it's relevant, they feel like, wow, this is all great. It's all relevant to what I'm looking for. And what happens when that happens? We have a successful call to action click rate, and we also have longer engagements with people on our website because you're giving them what they're looking for. Okay? So, what else? Call to actions should excite and engage your audience. So please, there's a lot of people who will give offerings, call to actions like you do, like spend $300 with me and I'll give you a 10% coupon back or $10 off your next purchase. That's not only absurd, that's offensive. So you've got to make sure that you're not offending your audience with your call to action. You're exciting them. You're enticing them. You're creating this FOMO, fear of missing out, with your call to action. Okay? But again, it's knowing your audience. All right, next question. Call to action should have a broad appeal. And that is absolutely 100% false. Because we're not trying to get broad appeal. We're trying to reach people that are your primary and secondary audience. So everything should be tailored to suit your market, not everyone, right? So we're not after pleasing the world. Also, you need to set the table before introducing your call to action. Like I said, you want to make sure that it's all relevant. You're not forcing any kind of call to action on your visitors. It feels like, it's very timely. It feels very comfortable when you had introduced that call to action. And then establish the value and the credibility first, or you will lose your audience. So keep that in mind. And call to action should always include a good WeFM. What does that mean? What's in it for me? Me being the consumer, the guy or the person who is going to be clicking on that call to action that you're putting in front of me. So you have to have a good enough what's in it for them in order to get them to click on that. So keep that in mind. So good pro tip though is that every page should have a relevant call to action. So just like you mapped out your site, you mapped out your links and how we're going to lead people, you should be also mapping out your call to actions. All right, well, with that said, I'm going to stop here. Next episode, we're going to be talking about sample surveys, so I do hope that you join me with that one. All right, take care, Menches.